The rehearsal that changed everything. 3 days before her wedding, Elena stood alone in the middle of the ballroom and watched her fiancé laugh with her sister as though Elena were the only stranger in the room. First, she told herself not to be ridiculous. It was only a rehearsal. People were tired. Everyone was stressed. Weddings made families behave strangely. That was what Elena told herself while Daniel leaned towards Sophie and whispered something that made her throw her head back laughing. That was what Elena told herself when Daniel moved Sophie's chair closer to his. And it was what Elena was still telling herself when the photographer called out, "Bride and groom, please stand together." Daniel didn't move. He was still looking at Sophie. Elena's smile disappeared. "Daniel." He finally turned. "What?" "The photographer." "Oh." He stood reluctantly, as though being summoned away from something much more interesting. Elena felt a tiny crack open somewhere inside her chest. Only an hour earlier, she had arrived at the hotel believing she was about to experience one of the happiest weekends of her life. For almost 11 months she had planned every detail of the wedding. The ceremony would take place in the old glass conservatory behind the hotel. White roses would line the aisle. Small candles would float in shallow pools surrounding the reception terrace. The dinner tables would be decorated with ivory linen, olive branches, and tiny handwritten cards Elena had spent 6 nights making herself. Daniel had always told her he didn't care about details. "You choose," he would say. "I just want to marry you." She had once thought those words were romantic. Standing in the ballroom now, Elena suddenly wondered whether they had actually meant something very different. The rehearsal coordinator clapped her hands. "Okay, everyone. Let's run through the entrance one more time." Elena returned to her position near the ballroom doors. Her father stood beside her. Daniel waited near the temporary arch. Sophie should have been standing with the other bridesmaids. Instead, she was beside Daniel again. Elena watched her sister adjust something on his jacket. "You folded this wrong," Sophie said. Daniel looked down. "Did I?" "Obviously." Sophie fixed his pocket square with careful fingers. Daniel smiled. "Good thing you're here." Something in Elena's stomach tightened. Her father noticed. "You okay?" Elena immediately smiled. "Of course. You look pale." "It's hot in here." It wasn't. The ballroom was almost cold. The music began. Elena walked slowly toward Daniel. She imagined what it would feel like 3 days from now when the room was full, when the flowers were real, when everyone she loved would be watching. She expected Daniel to look at her. He didn't. Halfway down the aisle, Elena followed his gaze. Sophie was standing near the front row. She was making a face at him. Daniel was trying not to laugh. Elena stopped walking. The music continued. Her father turned to her. "Elena." The coordinator raised her head. "Everything all right?" Daniel finally noticed. "Why did you stop?" Elena stared at him. For one strange second, she wanted to ask the question that had suddenly formed inside her. "Who are you waiting for at the end of this aisle? Me? Or her?" But 20 people were watching. So Elena forced another smile. "My shoe." She bent down and pretended to adjust the strap. The lie came too easily. That scared her more than anything. The rehearsal continued. During the mock vows, Daniel forgot the line the coordinator had given him. Sophie corrected him from behind. "No, you say. I choose you today and every day." Daniel looked towards Sophie. "That sounds terrible." "It's romantic. You write something better then." Sophie grinned. "I probably could." Several people laughed. Elena didn't. Daniel finally looked at her. "What?" "Nothing. You look annoyed." "I'm not annoyed." Sophie stepped closer. "She's stressed." Elena looked directly at her sister. "I can speak for myself." The laughter around them faded. Sophie blinked. "I was just helping." Daniel frowned. "She is helping, Elena." There it was. Small. Simple. Almost harmless. But Elena heard it. Not asterisk she's trying to help. Asterisk. Not asterisk don't worry. Asterisk. Not asterisk are you okay? Asterisk. She is helping. As though Elena were the problem. As though Sophie and Daniel had somehow become a team and Elena was the difficult person standing outside it. The coordinator quickly moved everyone to the reception terrace. Elena tried to forget it. She really did. Then dinner began. There were 24 seats arranged around several tables, but Daniel chose the chair beside Sophie. Elena sat across from them. For almost 40 minutes she barely participated in the conversation. Daniel and Sophie discussed music, then honeymoon destinations, then restaurants, then the apartment Daniel and Elena were supposed to move into after the wedding. "You still haven't bought a dining table?" Sophie asked. Daniel shook his head. "Elena likes this wooden one." "It's ugly." Elena raised her eyes. Sophie continued. "You should get glass. It'll make the room look bigger." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "That's what I said." Elena stared at him. "No, you didn't." Daniel looked confused. "What? You never said that." "I'm pretty sure I did. You told me you liked the wooden one." Sophie laughed. "Oh my God, this is why couples shouldn't decorate together." Elena placed her fork down. The sound was quiet. Still Daniel noticed. "You okay? You've asked me that twice tonight. Because you're acting strange." "Am I?" Sophie sighed. "Elena." That tone. The tone Sophie had used since childhood whenever Elena became upset. Patient. Superior. As if Elena were a child who needed to be managed. "Don't turn this into something," Sophie said. Elena looked at her. "Into what? Nobody is attacking you." "I didn't say anyone was." Daniel leaned back. "Can we please not fight tonight?" Elena almost laughed. There hadn't been a fight. Not until he called it one. She pushed her chair back. "I'm going upstairs." Daniel checked the time. "You're leaving already?" Elena stood. "We've been here for 5 hours. But everyone's still here." She waited. A stupid part of her waited for him to stand. To say he would come with her. To remember that she was the woman he was marrying in 3 days. Instead, he glanced toward Sophie. "We're still going over the playlist." Elena heard that word too. She nodded slowly. "Have fun." She walked away before anyone could see her face. The elevator doors closed. Only then did Elena allow herself to breathe. She leaned against the mirrored wall. Her reflection stared back at her. The elegant cream rehearsal dress. The pearl earrings Daniel's mother had given her. The engagement ring sparkling beneath the elevator light. Everything looked perfect. That was almost funny. When she reached her hotel room, she locked the door behind her and sat at the edge of the bed. Her phone remained silent. 5 minutes. 10. 20. No message from Daniel. Elena opened their conversation. The last text from him had been sent at noon. "Don't forget my cuff links." She stared at those words. Then she opened her conversation with Sophie. There were hundreds of messages. Dress photos. Cake samples. Flowers. Seating charts. Sophie had been involved in almost everything from the beginning. Elena had invited her into the planning because Sophie was her younger sister. Because their mother had died 6 years earlier. Because Elena had always felt responsible for her. That responsibility had begun when they were children. Sophie was the impulsive one. The beautiful one. The one who forgot rent payments, quit jobs after arguments with managers, dated disastrous men and called Elena at 2 in the morning when everything fell apart. Elena was the person who arrived. Always. When Sophie needed money, Elena found it. When Sophie needed somewhere to stay, Elena opened her door. When Sophie's last relationship ended badly, Elena let her live in her apartment for 4 months. Daniel had met Sophie during that time. They became friends quickly. At first Elena had been relieved. Her fiancé liked her sister. What could be better than that? She closed the conversation. The hotel room suddenly felt too quiet. At 12:47 a.m. Her phone finally vibrated. "Daniel." Elena opened the message immediately. Still downstairs. Sophie convinced the DJ to change a few things. She has good ideas. Don't wait up. Elena read it twice. Then a third time. Few things. She typed. What things? The message showed as delivered. No answer. She waited 15 minutes. Nothing. At 1:16 she sent another. Daniel? No response. At 1:41, Elena heard voices in the hallway. She stood. Laughter approached the door. Daniel. And Sophie. Elena remained completely still. Their voices stopped just outside. Sophie was speaking quietly. You can't tell her like that. Daniel laughed. She'll get over it. Elena's hand tightened around her phone. Sophie said something too softly for Elena to hear. Then Daniel answered. Elena always gets upset first. Then she realizes I'm right. Silence. Sophie laughed. Not loudly. Almost affectionately. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. A few seconds later, footsteps moved away. Elena opened the door. The corridor was empty. Daniel's room was 3 doors down. Sophie's was on the opposite floor. Elena looked toward the elevators. The numbers above them were descending. She could have followed. She didn't. Instead, she returned to her room. She didn't sleep. At 7:13 the next morning, her phone began vibrating repeatedly against the bedside table. Elena reached for it. A new group conversation had been created. 3 people. Sophie, Daniel, Elena. The name of the group was Wedding Fixes Red Heart. Elena stared at it. Then the messages started appearing. Sophie, morning. I've been thinking all night and there are some things we need to change before Saturday. Another message. First, the flowers are too boring, so I called the florist. Elena sat upright. Another. We're replacing the white roses with blush peonies and pink garden roses. Elena's heart began pounding. Another. Second, I talked to the DJ. The first dance song is too slow, so we picked another one. Pick. We. Daniel replied almost immediately. Much better song. Trust us. Elena stared at the screen. Then Sophie continued. Third. I moved some people around on the seating plan because your arrangement made no sense. Elena's fingers went cold. She finally typed. You called the florist without asking me? Sophie replied with a laughing emoji. Relax. You'll love it when you see it. Elena. Cancel the changes. Daniel responded this time. Why? Elena. Because it's our wedding. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Returned. Then Daniel wrote. Exactly. Our wedding. Not just yours. Elena's thumb froze above the screen. For 11 months, Daniel had told her to make every decision. For 11 months, he had said he didn't care about flowers, music, table settings, or colors. Now suddenly he cared. The day after spending an entire evening with Sophie, Elena typed slowly. Then you should have discussed the changes with me. Sophie, can we not make this dramatic? Daniel, she's trying to help us. Elena closed her eyes. The same sentence. Again. She is helping. She's trying to help us. She looked around the hotel room. Wedding dress hanging near the window. Shoes on the floor. Veil folded carefully inside its box. Everything she had planned was physically surrounding her. And somehow she had never felt less like the bride. Then the next message arrived. Sophie. Also, I've been thinking about after the wedding. Elena almost ignored it. Almost. Then Daniel replied. Tell her. Elena slowly opened the conversation again. Sophie. My lease ends next month, so Daniel said I can move in with you guys for a while. Elena stopped breathing. Another message appeared before she could answer. Don't worry, I won't be in the way, face with tears of joy. Then Daniel. It makes sense financially. Elena read the sentence over and over. Their apartment. The apartment she had saved for. The apartment where she and Daniel were supposed to begin their married life. She typed. You invited Sophie to live with us without asking me? Daniel. It's not a big deal. She's family. Elena. How long is a while? No answer. Then Sophie. Until I figure things out. Elena laughed once. A dry shock sound. Sophie had been figuring things out for most of her adult life. Elena typed. No. The response was immediate. Daniel. Elena. She answered. No. Sophie. Wow. Okay. Daniel. Why are you being selfish? That word hit harder than everything else. Selfish. Elena had paid Sophie's rent twice. Loaned her a car. Covered the deposit on her last apartment. Helped her through every breakup. Let her live rent-free for 4 months. And now, because Elena didn't want her sister moving into her marital home, she was selfish. Elena placed the phone down. She walked to the bathroom. Turned on the water. Stared at herself in the mirror. Her eyes looked strangely calm. That frightened her. Her phone vibrated again. And again. Finally she returned. There were 6 new messages. The last one was from Sophie. Also, since the master bedroom has that huge wardrobe, I thought I could organize it when I move in. I'm better at that stuff than Elena anyway. Face with tears of joy ***. Daniel reacted with a heart. Elena stared at that heart for a long time. Then something inside her became very quiet. Not broken. Quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when a person finally stops trying to explain something they already understand. She scrolled through the conversation from the beginning. The flowers. The music. The seating chart. The apartment. The bedroom. Her wedding. Her home. Her life. All being rearranged by 2 people who apparently believed she would eventually surrender because she always had. Elena looked toward the wedding dress near the window. For the first time since Daniel proposed, she didn't imagine herself wearing it. Instead, she imagined Sophie standing beside him, making decisions, laughing, correcting his pocket square, standing where Elena was supposed to stand. And then an unexpected thought entered Elena's mind. It was so cold, so clear that she almost smiled. If Sophie and Daniel wanted to plan a wedding together so badly, maybe Elena should let them. Her phone vibrated. Daniel had sent one more message. We're meeting downstairs at 10 to finalize everything. Come if you want. Come if you want. Elena read it. Then she deleted the message notification. She walked to the window and looked down at the hotel courtyard where, in 2 days, dozens of guests would arrive expecting to see Elena marry Daniel. They would see a wedding. Elena was suddenly certain of that. She just wasn't sure anymore who the bride would be. And for the first time she began planning something without telling either of them. She stopped fighting. The next morning, Elena walked into the hotel cafe and found Daniel and Sophie already sitting together. Sophie had a wedding binder open between them. Daniel was laughing at something on her phone. Neither noticed Elena until she pulled out a chair. There she is, Sophie said. We have a lot to fix. Elena looked at the binder. Fix? Sophie smiled. The centerpieces are too plain, so I changed them. More pink, taller flowers. How much? About 900 extra. Daniel looked at Elena. You're okay with that, right? Yesterday she would have argued. Today she only said, fine. Sophie blinked. Then she turned the page. I changed the first dance song too. Elena looked at Daniel. Their original song had been playing the night he first told her he loved her. You agreed to that? Daniel shrugged. Sophie found something better. Fine. The seating plan changed next. Then the cake. The cocktail menu. The bridesmaids' entrance. The speeches. With every change, Elena gave the same answer. Fine. Soon Sophie was almost cheerful. Daniel looked relieved. I knew you'd calm down. Elena held his gaze. Did you? He kissed her forehead. You always get emotional first. Then Sophie stood. Come on. We have to see the DJ. Daniel followed. He glanced back. You coming? Elena smiled. No. You two seem to have it handled. We do, Sophie said. Elena watched them walk away. Then she took out her phone. Her first call was to the hotel. I'm checking out early tomorrow morning. The manager hesitated. On your wedding day? Yes. And Daniel Carter is not authorized to enter my suite after I leave. No spare key. No information about where I go. Her second call was to her landlord. The apartment Daniel called ours had always legally been Elena's. Her name alone was on the lease. You said your nephew was looking for a place, Elena said. Yes. How soon could he move in? That afternoon, Elena returned home and began packing. Not everything. Only what mattered. Documents. Passport. Her mother's jewelry. Family photographs. Letters. Clothes Daniel would not immediately notice. Then she photographed all of Daniel's belongings so nobody could later accuse her of taking anything. Her phone buzzed. The group chat. Sophie had sent a photograph. A champagne-colored gown. Floor length. Fitted. Almost white. Can I wear this tomorrow? My bridesmaid dress looks awful in photos. Before Elena could answer, Daniel replied. Looks way better. Elena stared at the dress. Then typed. Wear it. Sophie answered immediately. Really? Absolutely. Daniel. See, everyone's happy now. Elena almost laughed. Yes, everyone was happy, because nobody realized Elena was already leaving. That evening Daniel came home carrying beer and behaving as if nothing had happened. Elena, about Sophie moving in. I was actually going to ask about that. His expression softened. Really? Where will she sleep? The office. And her clothes. We'll make space. Where? Daniel hesitated. The wardrobe in our bedroom is huge. Elena stared at him. You want Sophie's clothes in our bedroom? Some. And she just comes in whenever she wants? She's your sister. Elena said nothing. Daniel continued. She also thinks your vanity would fit better in the office. My vanity? Yeah. Then she can put her dresser in our room. For a moment Elena simply looked at him. Sophie was not just changing the wedding. She was rearranging Elena out of her own home. One object at a time. You really don't hear yourself, do you? Elena asked. Daniel frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. That night he fell asleep quickly. At 1:48 a.m. His phone lit up. Elena didn't touch it. She could read the preview. Sophie. She finally stopped fighting us face with tears of joy. A second message followed. Tomorrow will be perfect. That word destroyed Elena's last hesitation. The next morning she woke before sunrise. Wedding day. Her dress hung by the window. For months she had imagined walking toward Daniel in it. Now she put it on only once. Alone. She stood before the mirror and took one photograph. Then she removed the dress, packed her last bag, and placed her engagement ring inside an envelope marked Daniel. At 7:12 a.m. Elena checked out. By 9:30, movers had removed everything she wanted from the apartment. Daniel's belongings were boxed and placed in temporary storage. At 10:15 new tenants arrived. Elena handed them the keys. I hope you're happy here. Then she drove away. At 10:42 she switched her phone on. 31 missed calls. Daniel, where are you? Hotel says you checked out. Elena, answer me. Sophie, this isn't funny. Then Elena's father called. She answered. Where are you? He asked. Safe. Are you coming back? No. Silence. Then her father said quietly. Good. Elena's eyes filled. What do I tell Daniel? Nothing. He's panicking. Elena looked through the windshield. He wanted Sophie involved in every decision. Her voice remained calm. So he can figure this one out with her too. Back at the hotel, Daniel stood outside Elena's empty bridal suite. She checked out, he demanded. Yes, the manager said. Open the room. I can't. I'm her fiancé. You are not authorized. Sophie stood beside him in the champagne dress. Almost white. Almost bridal. Maybe she went home, Sophie said. Daniel grabbed his jacket. They drove to the apartment. His key no longer worked. A stranger opened the door. Daniel stared past him at unfamiliar boxes and furniture. Where's Elena? The man frowned. Who? Elena Morris. A woman behind him answered. The previous tenant? Daniel went pale. Previous. We moved in today. Daniel stepped backward. His phone vibrated. The wedding coordinator. Guests are arriving. Where's the bride? Daniel looked at the time. The ceremony was only hours away. Everything was ready. The flowers Sophie chose. The cake Sophie chose. The music Sophie chose. Even Sophie herself dressed almost like a bride. Daniel turned toward her. What did you do? Sophie recoiled. Me. You knew she was upset. So did you. What are we supposed to do now? Sophie looked at him. Then down at her dress. Something changed in her expression. The venue is paid for, she said quietly. Daniel stared. The guests are already there. Sophie. The food is ready. Stop. She stepped closer. And I'm already dressed. Daniel's face changed. No. You don't even know what I'm saying. Yes, I do. Sophie swallowed. We don't have to waste the wedding. Daniel stepped away from her. You want me to marry you? She didn't answer. And in that silence, Daniel finally understood what Elena had seen long before he did. Daniel stared at Sophie as though he no longer recognized her. You want me to marry you? Sophie's confidence disappeared. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I was trying to find a solution. A solution? Daniel pointed toward her champagne dress. My fiancé is gone, and your solution is to replace her? Sophie's face flushed. The venue is paid for. Everyone's waiting. What are we supposed to do? Find Elena. Daniel walked toward the stairs. Sophie hurried after him. Daniel, wait. He turned. No. You've done enough. Her expression hardened. Me? Yes, you. You agreed with every change. The accusation stopped him. Because she was right. Daniel had agreed. The flowers. Music. Cake. Seating. Apartment. Even Sophie moving her dresser into the master bedroom. At the time, each decision had seemed small. Now, standing outside an apartment Elena had quietly abandoned, Daniel saw them together. A pattern. And he had helped create it. His phone rang. His mother. Daniel, where are you? Guests are asking questions. I'm coming back. And Elena? Daniel looked at Sophie. I don't know. His mother went silent. What do you mean you don't know? She left. What happened? I'll explain later. He ended the call. On the drive back, Sophie tried 3 times to speak. Daniel ignored her. Finally she snapped. You can't blame me because Elena had some kind of breakdown. Daniel slammed the brakes at a red light. Don't call it a breakdown. She vanished on her wedding day. She packed her apartment first. Sophie became quiet. That was the detail neither of them could dismiss. Elena hadn't panicked. She had planned. She knew exactly what she was doing, Daniel said. Sophie folded her arms. Then she wanted to humiliate you. No. Daniel looked through the windshield. She wanted to leave me. For the first time he heard the difference. And it terrified him. When they returned to the hotel, dozens of guests were already gathered in the lobby. Conversation stopped as Daniel entered. Then everyone noticed Sophie beside him. In champagne. Almost white. Whispers spread instantly. Daniel's mother rushed forward. Where is Elena? I don't know. What do you mean? She checked out this morning. Elena's father stood several feet away. Daniel saw him. You know where she is. Her father said nothing. Please. She asked me not to tell you. Daniel's face tightened. So you spoke to her? Yes. Is she safe? Yes. Is she coming? No. The single word seemed to empty the room. Daniel stepped closer. Why? Elena's father looked at Sophie. Then back at Daniel. You really need someone to explain it? Daniel followed his gaze. Sophie shifted uncomfortably. This isn't my fault. Elena's father gave a humorless laugh. No. She's my sister. Then perhaps you should have behaved like one. Sophie's face went red. Daniel raised a hand. Please. I just need to talk to Elena. You had plenty of opportunities. That's between us. No, Daniel. You made it everybody's business when you let Sophie run the wedding while my daughter stood there like a guest. Daniel looked around. People were listening. His humiliation burned. Can we do this privately? You're worried about embarrassment now? That silenced him. The wedding coordinator approached cautiously. We need a decision. The ceremony was scheduled to begin in 40 minutes. Daniel stared toward the conservatory. Through the glass doors he could see the flowers. Pink. Sophie's flowers. A musician was testing the sound system. Sophie's song would soon play. Everywhere Daniel looked, Elena was missing from her own wedding. And somehow he had not noticed until she physically disappeared. Cancel it, he said. Sophie immediately turned. Daniel. He looked at her. Cancel everything. But the reception. Stop talking about the reception. The lobby went silent. Sophie stepped back. Daniel had never shouted at her before. His mother touched his arm. Come upstairs. No. He pulled out his phone. I need to find Elena. He called. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. He texted. I'm sorry. Please tell me where you are. Then. I canceled the wedding. Then. I told Sophie no. He stared at the screen. Nothing. His mother looked over his shoulder. Told Sophie no to what? Daniel closed his eyes. He had no answer that would make any of this look normal. Behind him, Sophie said. It wasn't like that. Daniel's mother turned. What wasn't? Sophie froze. Daniel looked at her. Tell her. Daniel. You thought we shouldn't waste the wedding. His mother stared. I don't understand. Daniel's voice was cold. She suggested I marry her instead. The silence that followed was brutal. Someone gasped. Sophie's eyes filled. I was upset. I said something stupid. Elena's father stared at her in disbelief. You suggested marrying your sister's fiancé on her wedding day? She abandoned him. Daniel turned sharply. Don't. But she did. No. She left me. Sophie stared. Daniel continued. There's a difference. His phone buzzed. Everyone looked. Daniel grabbed it. Not Elena. The hotel manager. Mr. Carter? Yes. There is something for you in Ms. Morris's suite. Daniel's heart jumped. What? An envelope. Minutes later, he stood inside the bridal suite. The wedding dress still hung by the window. Daniel stopped when he saw it. For a moment, hope surged through him. She left her dress. The manager said nothing. On the table was an envelope. Daniel. He tore it open. The engagement ring fell into his palm. There was no letter. No explanation. Only the ring. That hurt more. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed. He remembered buying it. Remembered kneeling beside the lake. Remembered Elena crying before he finished proposing. He had believed that moment guaranteed everything after it. As though love once given could never be withdrawn. Sophie appeared in the doorway. Daniel. He closed his fist around the ring. Go away. I want to help. That's the problem. She stared. What? You kept helping. I was trying to make things better. For who? Sophie didn't answer. Daniel stood. You changed her flowers. You agreed. Her song. You agreed. Her seating. You agreed. Daniel stopped. Again the truth landed. Yes, he said. I did. His anger disappeared. What replaced it was worse. Shame. I agreed every time. Sophie softened. Then why are you blaming me? I'm not. He looked at the ring. I'm blaming myself. For the first time, Sophie looked frightened. If Elena comes back, what happens to me? Daniel stared at her. Even now. Still herself. You're worried about you? I could lose my sister. You should have thought about that before trying to take her place. Sophie flinched. Daniel walked past her. By afternoon, the guests had been sent home. The flowers remained. The cake remained untouched. The chairs faced an empty altar. Daniel stood alone inside the conservatory. He imagined Elena walking down the aisle during the rehearsal. He remembered her stopping halfway. He remembered asking, why did you stop? Now he knew. She had been looking at him. And he had been looking at Sophie. His phone rang. Unknown number. Daniel answered immediately. Elena. Silence. Then a woman's voice. No. Is this Daniel Carter? His hope collapsed. Yes. This is Northside Storage. We have several boxes registered for collection under your name. Daniel closed his eyes. Even his belongings were gone. Who arranged that? Elena Morris. Did she leave an address? I'm afraid I can't provide customer information. Daniel ended the call. Sophie was waiting outside the conservatory. Her champagne dress looked ridiculous now. She had covered it with a coat. Any news? No. What happens now? Daniel looked at her. Now you go home. Daniel. I don't want to see you. Her face crumpled. You're choosing her after she did this to you? He stared at Sophie. No. His voice became quiet. I chose you every time I should have chosen her. Sophie said nothing. That's why she's gone. Daniel walked away. Across town, Elena sat inside an airport terminal watching planes move beyond the glass. Her phone remained switched off. Beside her was one suitcase. Inside her bag was a photograph of herself in the wedding dress. She looked at it once. Then closed the bag. Her flight was boarding. Elena stood. For the first time in years, nobody knew exactly where she was going. The thought didn't frighten her. Felt like freedom. Back at the hotel, Daniel returned to the empty ballroom one final time. Workers were dismantling the wedding Sophie had redesigned. One of them approached carrying a box. "Sir? Should we throw these away?" Daniel looked inside. Small handwritten cards. Elena's original place cards. The ones Sophie had called unnecessary. Daniel picked up the card with his name. On the back, in Elena's handwriting, was a message written weeks earlier. "Daniel, wherever life takes us, I hope we always remember to choose each other first." Daniel stopped breathing. He read it again, then sank slowly into a chair. Because Elena had kept her promise. She had chosen him first. Again and again. Until he taught her not to. And hundreds of miles away, Elena's plane lifted from the runway. 3 days after the wedding that never happened, Daniel stood outside a storage unit surrounded by boxes containing what remained of his old life. Elena had labeled every one. Daniel clothes. Daniel books. Daniel office. Daniel personal. Nothing was damaged. Nothing was missing. That somehow made it worse. If Elena had smashed his things, thrown his clothes into the street, or emptied his bank account, Daniel could have been angry. Instead, she had been careful. Fair. Finished. He opened the box marked personal. His watch. Old photographs. Letters. A birthday gift Elena had bought him years earlier. Everything neatly wrapped. At the bottom was a spare key. Their apartment key. Useless now. Daniel sat on the concrete floor. His phone rang. Sophie. He rejected the call. It rang again. Rejected. Then a message arrived. "We need to talk." Daniel almost laughed. For years, Elena had probably said those words whenever something hurt her. He had called her dramatic. Now Sophie wanted to talk because he was finally refusing to listen. Another message. "Mom knows everything. Dad too. Everyone is blaming me." Then, "You need to tell them this wasn't all my fault." Daniel stared at that one. Not. Asterisk I'm sorry. Asterisk. Not. Asterisk have you heard from Elena? Asterisk. Not even. Asterisk is she okay? Asterisk. Sophie was worried about blame. Daniel typed. "Leave me alone." Her reply came instantly. "You don't mean that." Daniel blocked her. Then he opened his conversation with Elena. Nothing. His messages remained unanswered. "Please call me. I understand why you left. I'm sorry. I need 5 minutes. I won't ask you to come back. Just tell me you're okay." Silence. He had never understood silence before. He did now. Silence was not always punishment. Sometimes it was a boundary. And Elena had finally built one he couldn't cross. Elena was 1,200 miles away when she turned her phone back on. She was staying with Maya, an old university friend who lived in a small house near the coast. Maya had asked only one question when Elena arrived. "Do you want advice or somewhere to sleep?" Somewhere to sleep. Guest room is upstairs. That was all. No interrogation. No judgment. No demands. For 2 days Elena mostly slept. On the third morning, she woke before sunrise and walked to the ocean. She sat on a wooden bench and watched the sky become orange. Her wedding should have been over by now. She should have been Daniel's wife. They should have been leaving for their honeymoon. Instead, Elena was wearing Maya's oversized sweater and drinking terrible coffee from a paper cup. And somehow she could breathe. Her phone contained hundreds of messages. Some supportive. Some curious. Some cruel. A cousin. You could have handled it privately. An aunt. Walking out without explanation was immature. A bridesmaid. I'm proud of you. Sophie's behavior was insane. Daniel's mother. I am deeply sorry. I didn't understand what was happening. You owe us nothing, but I hope you are safe. Elena stopped at that one. Then came Daniel. Dozens of messages. She read only the newest. I found the place card you wrote for me. I understand now. I'm sorry I understood too late. Elena's eyes filled. She locked the phone. The worst thing about leaving someone wasn't always discovering you no longer loved them. Sometimes it was realizing you still did. She still remembered Daniel before Sophie became part of every decision. The man who brought soup when she was sick. The man who drove 3 hours to help her father after his car broke down. The man who once danced with Elena barefoot in their kitchen because the electricity had gone out. Those memories were real. So were the others. Love did not erase disrespect. And good memories did not create an obligation to endure new pain. Elena stood and walked back toward Maya's house. She didn't answer Daniel. Not yet. Back home, Daniel temporarily moved into his mother's guest room. On the 4th evening, his mother placed a laptop in front of him. You need to see something. Daniel frowned. What? Your cousin sent me this. It was a video from the rehearsal. Daniel nearly closed it. Then he saw Elena. She was walking down the temporary aisle beside her father. Halfway down she stopped. Daniel remembered that moment. Asterisk my shoe. Asterisk. That had been her excuse. But the video showed something Daniel had not seen from his position. Elena wasn't looking at her shoe. She was looking at him. The camera moved. Daniel saw himself standing beside the arch looking away from his bride. At Sophie. Sophie made a face. Daniel laughed. Then Elena stopped. Daniel watched the clip twice. Then a third time. His mother sat silently. I didn't know, he whispered. You didn't look. The words hurt, because they were true. His mother closed the video. There's something else. What? Sophie called me. Daniel's jaw tightened. I blocked her. She said Elena was jealous of your friendship. She called it friendship? She said Elena had always been controlling. Daniel stared at his mother. That's not true. I know. How? His mother hesitated. Because Sophie sent me screenshots. Daniel frowned. Of what? Messages between you and her. His stomach dropped. What messages? His mother opened several images Sophie had apparently sent while trying to prove her innocence. First they looked ordinary. Wedding planning. Jokes. Complaints. Then Daniel saw one from 6 weeks earlier. Sophie. Elena said no to me staying after the wedding. Daniel. Ignore her. She'll change her mind. Daniel stared. He remembered writing it. At the time it had seemed harmless. Another. Sophie. She gets possessive about everything. Daniel. That's just Elena. Another. Sophie. Sometimes I think you understand me better than she does. Daniel had responded, probably faced with tears of joy. His stomach turned. He had never considered it flirting. But reading the messages together, stripped of his excuses, he saw something else. An intimacy he had permitted. A private alliance built partly by making Elena the joke. Then he reached one message he didn't remember. Sophie. If you'd met me first, do you think things would be different? Daniel's reply. Dangerous question. Sophie. Not an answer. Daniel. Good. He stared at the screen. He had thought he was shutting it down. Now he realized he hadn't. He had left the door open. His mother watched him. Did Elena ever see these? I don't know. Did you tell Sophie to stop? Daniel said nothing. His mother had her answer. Then another message caught his attention. Sent 2 weeks before the wedding. Sophie. I found a gorgeous champagne dress. Too much? Daniel. For what? Sophie. Wedding. Daniel. Elena will kill you face with tears of joy. Sophie. Would you mind? Daniel. Wear whatever you want. Daniel closed the laptop. He felt sick. His mother said quietly. You may not have cheated on Elena. I didn't. No. But you allowed another woman to behave as though she had a claim on you. Daniel looked up. She was her sister. That should have made your boundaries stronger, not weaker. Daniel stood and walked away. But there was nowhere to go. That night, someone knocked on the front door. Daniel opened it. Sophie stood outside. Her eyes were swollen. What are you doing here? You blocked me. That was deliberate. I need you to listen. No. She stepped forward. Daniel, please. He blocked the doorway. Go home. I lost my sister. Daniel laughed bitterly. You're only realizing that now? I made mistakes. Mistakes. I got carried away. With my wedding? Sophie stopped. Daniel's expression changed. What were you going to say? Nothing. You were going to say our wedding. No. Yes, you were. Sophie began crying. I didn't plan this. Plan what? To fall for you. Daniel froze. There it was. Finally. No jokes. No ambiguity. No pretending. Sophie wiped her face. I tried not to. Daniel stared at her. You tried not to? Yes. So Elena was right. She never accused me directly. She shouldn't have needed to. Sophie flinched. Daniel stepped outside and closed the door behind him so his mother wouldn't hear. How long? I don't know. How long, Sophie? Months. Daniel looked away. The answer disgusted him. Did you think I felt the same? Sophie said nothing. That's why you kept changing the wedding. I wanted to help. No. Daniel looked at her. You wanted to see how much you could take before Elena stopped you. Sophie's face hardened. That's unfair. Is it? You let me. Daniel stopped. Sophie's voice shook. You answered my messages. You laughed with me. You agreed with me instead of her. You told me I could move in. Daniel felt the accusation land. You made me think. I made you think what? That maybe. She couldn't finish. Daniel did it for her. That I would choose you. Sophie looked down. Yes. For several seconds Daniel said nothing. Then, I did choose you. Sophie's head snapped up. Hope appeared. Daniel destroyed it immediately. Every time Elena asked me to respect her and I defended you, I chose you. Every time you insulted something she wanted and I laughed, I chose you. Every time I let you into something that belonged between me and her, I chose you. Sophie stared at him. And that cost me Elena. Her hope disappeared. So no, Daniel continued. I will never choose you again. Sophie began crying harder. You hate me. No. Daniel opened the door. That would require me to keep you in my life. He went inside. Sophie remained on the porch. This time Daniel did not turn around. The following morning Elena received an email. Not from Daniel. From Sophie. The subject was, please read. Elena almost deleted it. Instead she opened it. The first sentence made her stop. Daniel knows I love him. Elena read on. Sophie admitted that her feelings had started months earlier. She insisted she never intended to steal Daniel. She said Elena had always been stronger, prettier, more successful, more stable. Then came the sentence that revealed everything. For once I wanted something you had. Elena stared at it. Not someone. Something. Daniel had become an object in a competition Elena hadn't known existed. Sophie ended with, I know you hate me, but I'm still your sister. Elena read the email twice. Then she replied with 4 words. That was your choice. She sent it. And blocked Sophie. That evening, Daniel received his first message from Elena since the wedding. His hand shook when he saw her name. He opened it immediately. I'm safe. Stop looking for me. Nothing else. Daniel typed. Can we talk? 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. Finally Elena replied. Not yet. Daniel stared at the words. Not asterisk never. Asterisk. His heart reacted before his mind could stop it. He typed. I'll wait. Elena answered. That's your decision. Don't make it my responsibility. Daniel put the phone down. Even now she refused to promise him anything. And for the first time he understood that love did not mean access. A week later Elena returned to her hometown. Not for Daniel. For herself. She had work. Friends. Family. A life she refused to abandon simply because the wedding had failed. Only 3 people knew she was coming. Daniel was not one of them. But when Elena arrived at her father's house, a package was waiting. No return address. Inside was the wedding binder. Her original wedding binder. Every page Sophie had changed had been restored. Her flowers. Her seating chart. Her songs. Her handwritten notes. On top was a single sheet of paper. Daniel's handwriting. I spent weeks helping someone erase you from your own wedding. I restored this because I needed to see exactly what I helped destroy. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Elena read it silently. Then she turned the page. One final sentence. There is one thing I need to tell you in person. It isn't about getting you back. It's about Sophie. Elena's stomach tightened. Her father watched from across the room. What is it? Elena folded the note. I don't know. But that night, Daniel sent another message. This time there was an attachment. A screenshot. Elena opened it. It was a conversation between Daniel and Sophie dated almost 2 months before the wedding. Most of it was ordinary. Then Elena reached the final message. Sophie had written, "Don't worry about Elena. By the time she realizes what's happening, everything will already be arranged." Elena stared at the date. 2 months earlier. Long before the rehearsal. Long before the flowers. Long before Sophie asked to move into their home. Elena had believed her sister's takeover began during wedding week. It hadn't. Sophie had been planning something much earlier. And suddenly Elena needed to know exactly what everything meant. Elena stared at the screenshot for nearly a minute. Don't worry about Elena. By the time she realizes what's happening, everything will already be arranged. 2 months before the wedding. Her hands turned cold. She called Daniel. He answered on the first ring. Elena. What did she mean? Silence. Then Daniel said, I think we should talk in person. No. Tell me now. Another pause. I found more messages. Elena closed her eyes. Of course you did. She had been talking about moving in long before I mentioned it to you. How long? Almost 3 months. Elena's stomach twisted. Daniel continued. She kept saying her lease was unstable, that she had nowhere to go. I told her we'd figure something out. And she took that as permission. Yes. That's not all, is it? Daniel exhaled. No. Elena waited. She also sent me apartment listings. For herself. For us. Elena went completely still. What? She said our place was too small if she was going to stay there. Elena laughed once. There was no humor in it. So my sister was helping choose our marital home. I didn't realize what she was doing. You keep saying that. I know. Daniel's voice broke slightly. And I know it doesn't help. Elena walked toward the window. What else? Sophie suggested putting herself on the emergency contact list for the new place. She talked about getting a key. She even asked which side of the master closet you used. Elena shut her eyes. The master closet. The dresser. The vanity. It hadn't started during wedding week. Sophie had been practicing. Testing. Seeing how far she could go. And you answered her? Daniel's silence was the answer. Elena whispered. You gave her access before she ever asked me. Yes. That single word hurt more than excuses would have. Elena sat down. Then Daniel said something unexpected. There's one more thing. What? She contacted the wedding coordinator privately. Elena straightened. When? 6 weeks before the wedding. About what? She told them she was helping make decisions on your behalf. Elena felt anger rise for the first time in days. She impersonated my authority? Not exactly. What does that mean? She said you were overwhelmed and had authorized her to handle last-minute changes. I never did. I know. Elena gripped the phone. Daniel continued. The coordinator didn't act on anything major without confirmation, but Sophie had already been trying to position herself as the person people should listen to. Now everything made sense. The confidence. The entitlement. The way Sophie had walked into meetings as though she belonged at the center. She had not suddenly become bold. She had been preparing to replace Elena's voice. Long before Elena disappeared. I want the screenshots, Elena said. I'll send everything. And after that, Daniel waited. What? I don't want you contacting me for a while. He went silent. Finally. Okay. Elena almost didn't believe him. No pleading. No argument. No emotional trap. Just okay. Daniel added softly. I'm sorry. Elena looked out the window. I know. Then she ended the call. 2 days later, Sophie came to Elena's father's house. Elena saw her through the window. For a moment, every instinct told her not to open the door. Then she did. Sophie stood on the porch looking smaller than Elena remembered. No makeup. Hair tied back. Eyes red. Can we talk? Elena crossed her arms. You have 5 minutes. Sophie looked hurt. But she nodded. I know Daniel showed you everything. He did. I didn't plan to steal your life. Elena's expression hardened. You planned around me. That's not the same. Yes, it is. Sophie looked away. I thought you'd eventually accept it. Accept what? Me being around. You were always around. That's not what I mean. Elena stared at her. Sophie finally said it. I wanted to matter the way you mattered. Elena's anger shifted. Not disappeared. Shifted. You thought taking my place would make you matter? No. You changed my wedding. I know. You tried to move into my bedroom. I know. You asked my fiancé whether he would have chosen you if he met you first. Sophie began crying. I know. And when I disappeared, you offered to marry him. I panicked. Elena stepped closer. No, Sophie. You revealed yourself. That stopped her. Sophie wiped her face. I was jealous of you. Elena said nothing. Everything always worked for you. Elena almost laughed. You think my life was easy? You were the responsible one. Dad trusted you. Mom relied on you. Everyone did. So, I was always the mess. That wasn't something I did to you. I know. Then why punish me? Sophie looked down. Because it was easier than fixing myself. There it was. Not an excuse. The truth. Elena felt tears rise, but she refused to let them soften the boundary she had fought so hard to create. I love you, Sophie whispered. Elena nodded. I love you too. Hope flickered across Sophie's face. Then Elena continued. And you are still not coming back into my life right now. Sophie's face collapsed. Elena. Love doesn't erase what you did. How long? I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Elena shook her head. That is finally not my responsibility. Sophie began crying again. Elena opened the door wider. Not to invite her in. To make it clear the conversation was over. Sophie understood. Before leaving, she turned. Do you think you'll forgive Daniel? Elena looked at her. That's between me and Daniel. And for once, Sophie was excluded. Exactly where she belonged. 3 months passed. Elena found a new apartment. Smaller than the old one. But hers. She chose the furniture herself. She bought a wooden dining table. The exact kind Sophie had called ugly. She laughed while assembling it. Her father helped. Maya visited. Life slowly became ordinary again. Beautifully ordinary. Then one evening Daniel sent a message. I'm moving out of state next week. I wanted you to know before I go. No expectations. Elena stared at it. Then replied. Would you like coffee tomorrow? They met at a quiet cafe. Daniel looked different. Tired. More careful. He didn't touch her. Didn't call her sweetheart. Didn't ask for another chance. For almost an hour they talked. About therapy. About boundaries. About how easily he had confused being easygoing with refusing responsibility. Finally Daniel said, I kept telling myself I never cheated. Elena looked at him. But betrayal has more than one shape. She said nothing. I gave Sophie emotional access that should have belonged to us. Then I made you feel unreasonable for noticing. Elena looked down at her coffee. That's what hurt most. I know now. Daniel swallowed. I loved you. Elena's throat tightened. I know. I probably still do. She looked up. He smiled sadly. But that doesn't mean you should come back. For the first time, Elena believed he truly understood. Not because he apologized. Because he finally stopped demanding forgiveness as proof that the apology mattered. When they stood to leave, Daniel reached into his pocket. The engagement ring. Elena froze. I kept it because I didn't know what else to do with it. He placed it on the table. You should decide. Elena looked at the ring. Once it had represented everything she wanted. Now it was only an object. She picked it up. Daniel watched. Then Elena walked to the counter. A charity collection box stood beside the register. She dropped the ring inside. Daniel stared. Elena turned back. He laughed softly. Okay. She smiled. Okay. Outside they hugged once. Not like lovers. Like two people saying goodbye to the life they almost had. Daniel walked away first. Elena watched him go. Then she turned in the opposite direction. Her phone buzzed. A message from her father. Dinner Sunday? Elena smiled. Absolutely. She slipped the phone into her bag and kept walking. For months, she had believed her wedding day was the day her future disappeared. She had been wrong. That was the day it returned to her. Because sometimes the worst thing that can happen before a wedding is discovering the person beside you is not ready to choose you. And sometimes the best thing you can do is leave before you promise to spend your life waiting for them to learn how.